Our next item is to hear a presentation discuss the Falcon Field Terminal and Master Plan updates. So we'd like to welcome up our friends from Falcon Field. Feel free to introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Mayor, council members. My name is Corrine Nystrom. I'm the airport director out at Falcon Field Airport. And before we start our presentation, I would like to just introduce to you some of the members of the Falcon Field staff who are instrumental in keeping this airport going and also played a big role in putting this presentation together.
Excellent.
First of all, I guess we'll start here with Rick Welker. Rick is our financial coordinator. We have Jake McDaniel, who is actually a student at ASU, who has been serving an internship out at Falcon Field. I think it's been an interesting experience for you.
Nice.
We have Deanne Thomas, who is our marketing and communications specialist.
Nice.
And Brad Hagan, who is our airport projects and operations supervisor. We also have Jim Law, our airport administration supervisor, but he was not able to be here today.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for that introduction. It's nice to see your friendly faces. We can put names to faces now, so wonderful.
When he was standing up, I thought she was going to get ready to do some kind of acapella.
Yeah.
But it was just staff.
Well, I could do that, but you would probably regret it.
All right.
Thank you very much for allowing us to be here this morning to visit with you. As many of you know, Falcon Field Airport is a financially self-sustaining enterprise fund of the city of Mesa. Our operating revenues are generated primarily from our airport ground leases, our airport hangar and tie-down rental fees that we charge, the fuel flowage fees that we collect off of the fuel that is sold at the airport, as well as 2 rental car concessions that are located on the airport. Our net income, which, by the way, we are operating in the black, our net income is used to help fund airport capital improvements, and we're going to visit about some of those today.
Before you go on,
Yes.
on that matter, because I know that there's been some discussions in some committees about maybe a misperception about the airport not being self-sufficient. Not only is Falcon Field sufficient to pay for all of its operating and capital needs, but it also has for the last 5-6 years been paying for both the police and fire coverage out there. So that's a pretty significant, and also fully funding its capital program. And despite some comments about federal dollars, you will notice, Council, both this agenda you just reviewed and the next agenda review for your next council meeting, Falcon Field is pretty good at applying for and receiving federal dollars for the airport. So there's just been some comments made recently about that concern, but I would say this is a pretty robust and healthy enterprise right now.
Thank you.
In keeping with City Manager Brady's comments here, over the past 5 years, over $19.9 million has been invested in capital improvements at Falcon Field. Some of that money has come from federal and state grant funds, but a good chunk of that has come from airport enterprise funds, as well as $8.7 million of this amount has actually been money that has been invested by the tenants at the airport themselves to construct improvements for their expansion and their operations at the airport. To us, that's a real demonstration that they have a long-term commitment to Falcon Field. Over the next 5 years, you'll see here we have over $22 million planned for capital improvements at the airport, and you'll see those showing up on your slide as being in yellow, superimposed over the red that you saw in the previous slide. What we do is the staff and I budget far in advance in terms of forecasting. We actually forecast out for 8 years, and we are required by the FAA to forecast out at least 5 years. And this includes our planning for our capital improvement projects. So we have a lot of things planned for the next several years. We do feel comfortable that the revenues that are being generated are going to be able to accommodate the needs here over the next several years.
A question,
Yes.
Councilmember Benelli.
Corrine, is the oval-shaped yellow the historic hangar?
The oval-shaped area is actually Falcon Field Park.
Okay.
And we are planning to, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but we're
Okay.
planning some really cool upgrades to that. It is a historic park, very historic park. So as you can see, because it's so historic, we have identified that part of the airport as the historic zone.
See?
We just did that after you made those comments. We changed the slide very quickly. No, in 2011, the City Council approved a planned area development for Falcon Field Airport. And in this PAD, we identified 3 distinct areas within the airport in addition to the runways and taxiway area. And so you see those 3 areas right there on that slide. And right now, our first focus is on improvements to the historic zone, in addition to the airfield improvements. That's something that many of you have seen out there at Falcon Field for many, many years. But if you've driven by lately, you have probably seen several human beings up on top of the scaffolding there, several hundred feet in the air around the water tower. They are prepping the airport water tower, to give it a new look. And this project has been in the planning stages for several years, and it included going out and holding public meetings with not only the airport tenants, but also with members of the community, just to get their thoughts, their ideas on what they would like to see the water tower look like. So we collected their input, and this is what the view will look like as you are facing the airfield. So as you're landing at the airport, you will see the Falcon Field logo on that side of the water tower. And then as you are facing McKellips and Greenfield, you will see this view of the water tower. We're really excited about making these improvements to this wonderful icon at the airport, and our anticipated completion date for this project is the end of this September.
Question,
So-
Councilmember Summers.
Not so much a question as a statement. So just to get this clear, you're taking a fairly historic piece of architecture, a water tower in this case, and utilizing it as a visual icon in a community and putting kind of advertisements on the side in a way?
Branding.
Branding on the side?
Branding.
That's a great idea.
Branding.
Branding on the side?
Yes.
What a unique idea. I wish somebody else had thought of this in another part of town. All right, that's it.
Timing is everything.
Feel free to continue.
Another area that
It's not your fault, just move on.
I understand exactly where you're headed with that. Another area that we are focusing on in the historic zone is our terminal building. And it's served us well over the past 40 years or so, but there really haven't been too many upgrades to it since like the 1980s. And we think it's time for it to have a little bit of a facelift, because our terminal building is oftentimes the first impression that visitors get of Falcon Field and Mesa, Arizona, as they're coming into the area. So this is what we've come up with for the land side. Now, we want to ensure that we are very cost effective with this. And so we decided to keep the same structure and not tear it down and build a new building. We are also focusing primarily on the areas that will be accessed by the general public, because that's the area that we feel is the most important. The configuration of the airport administration offices where we work will change, but we will be using, for example, we'll be utilizing the same office furniture and facilities that we have been using up to this point because they work just fine for us. So the focus is on the public areas. We also, as you can see, the design is focusing on xeriscape landscaping so that we can conserve from that perspective as well. This is the view that people get when they land at Falcon Field right now. And this is what they will be seeing hopefully about a year from now. Now, we've been sharing this information with the tenants at the airport for quite some time, and they've actually offered several suggestions during this process to help us come together with a really good design. And we've actually utilized and put into place in the design several of the tenants' suggestions. So we're excited about that. What we're really trying to convey here is a positive statement of arrival when people see the terminal building, to let them know you have now arrived in Mesa, Arizona at Falcon Field. And we want to set us apart from all the other airports in the valley.
Good. And remind us how many arrivals and departures, what's the numbers for Falcon Field as far as aviation?
Last year we had 263,000 aircraft operations at Falcon Field. And when you compare that to the other general aviation airports in the United States, which are airports that don't have the scheduled commercial airline service, we are the fourth most active general aviation airport in the United States.
Wonderful. I knew those stats were out there. Thank you.
You bet. Now, our estimated construction on this to begin is early in 2015. We are currently in the final stages of the design process. So we're real excited about this. That's a view of it from the air at night. Now, once we get completed with the terminal building, our next focus is going to be on making some additional upgrades to what we call the land side, which means outside of the perimeter fence in the historic zone. And these improvements will include such things as replacing the underground utilities because they're pretty old, and making improvements to the streets, the street lighting, the landscaping, the signage. We're looking to put a new monument sign out in front there at McKellips. And then also, probably one of the funnest things is going to be Falcon Field Park, and we're working with Parks and Recreation on that. And what we're looking at is doing some upgrades to it to give it more of an aviation theme. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. Now, many of you are very familiar with our wonderful friends at the Commemorative Air Force Museum, and they've just done a wonderful job in promoting Falcon Field with their display of vintage warbird aircraft. They were recently designated by the National Commemorative Air Force Organization as an air base, which makes them, at this juncture, the second largest commemorative Air Force facility in the United States. So we're really proud of them. And a new addition to our airport that also has a historic focus is Falcon Warbirds. Now, Falcon Warbirds is actually made up of several longtime tenants who have had these beautiful vintage aircraft stored in their city-owned hangars over many years, and they decided to get together and form a group. And they are currently located in one of the historic World War II hangars. They were recently designated as the Falcon Warbirds chapter of the Experimental Aircraft Association, which is a national organization. And what they do is they conduct formation flying workshops, and they also do flyovers for veteran memorial services, as well as performing formation flying at various events around the United States. So we're really excited to have them at Falcon Field. Now, as much as we all love watching those old vintage warbirds, and enjoying Falcon Field from a recreational perspective, it's important that we never, ever overlook the fact that Falcon Field is a very active and thriving business community. Right now, there are 82 businesses located on the airport property itself that employ over 1,000 individuals. We believe we are truly a strong economic engine for Mesa. Now, our corporate business traffic has recently been a topic of discussion, and I will share with you that the corporate and business traffic is very strong at Falcon Field. And to give you an example of that, over the past 5 years, and we keep records of this, 46% of the total gallons of fuel that have been pumped into aircraft at Falcon Field has been jet fuel. And that jet fuel is the vast majority of that is pumped into business and corporate aircraft. That's actually an increase in percentage over what it was in the early 2000s.
Question, Councilmember
Yes.
Benelli.
Yes.
This is probably on the next slide. Do we anticipate any kind of increased activity with the Super Bowl coming?
Yes, we do.
And
Yes.
are we taking that into account with the construction?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, we are. Unfortunately, the newly renovated terminal building will not be completed yet, but we will probably hold off on construction until after the Super Bowl.
That's rather uncharacteristic of us. Start now.
We would love to start it right now, but they might have to do a few design changes along the way, which might get a little expensive. Falcon Field has survived the economic recession quite well. What's that?
Oh, no, we're just
Oh, okay. Keep going? Okay. All right. We've survived the economic recession very well, and an example of this is just in the last year, a new hangar complex was completed with 20 aircraft and hangars that also have offices attached to them. Those hangars are filling up very quickly. We have over 700 aircraft based at Falcon Field. And during the winter months, of course, it's even more than that. So we're doing quite well. As far as the 403 city-owned hangars that we rent out, we currently have an 18-month waiting list to get into those hangars, which is quite a bit higher than other airports in the valley, which are ranging, their wait time is about 2 to 3 months. So we still have a substantial waiting list of people wanting to get into our hangars. The other thing that's really neat is that the existing tenants who have been here for quite a while are now in an expansion and a growth mode, and what we're seeing is a number of them are renegotiating new long-term ground leases with us when their old ground lease expires, and they are making what we think to be very nice improvements to their facilities so that they will improve the appearance of the airport overall and be with us for another 40 or so years.
Yeah, question, Councilmember Summers.
On a serious note, while the aesthetic, I'm very pleased to see that people are investing in the aesthetic, as we've talked about that on a citywide level for some time. Where are we in these tens of millions of dollars being invested on making improvements to building and fire code? We had a significant fire back in 2012. 10 units were affected. So are we upgrading these facilities to current codes, including
Yes.
fire sprinklers?
Yes.
Okay. What percentage have been added since? Are we 100% protected in our hangars and public buildings, or when do we hope to be there?
As far as the hangars, the city-owned hangars, we have almost completed a complete fire inspection of all of the city-owned hangars to ensure that they comply with the fire and the building code.
Okay.
And that will be a continuous process.
Okay, and have we retrofit fire sprinklers in those facilities?
No, the code under which those hangars were constructed does not require that they be sprinklered. Now, if we were to make If we were to build some new hangars, now they would be required to meet the code, the new code, which requires sprinklers.
So the new hangars, which was a previous slide,
Right.
as you construct those will have fire sprinklers.
Yes.
The existing ones, when they were built under the code, did not require them, so we're not required to retrofit, but we own them. They're city
Correct.
facilities. So, but we could retrofit them if we so chose.
If we chose to do that, yes, we could.
I think, Mayor, at some point we need to have a serious discussion, particularly given the loss, if we're going to be investing in improving the aesthetic, which I fully support and I think we need to do. We need to also talk about protecting that investment, and we should talk about putting some money forward to retrofit these facilities for public safety.
Okay.
you.
Appreciate that information. City Manager heard that. Councilmember Luna.
So, Corrine, are you anticipating building more hangars as we move forward? I know you talked about an 8-year process.
Right.
So, is that part of your plan, to build some more hangars? And
From the city's
From the perspective?
perspective, that is not in our long-term plan. We have run the numbers to determine whether it would be cost-effective for us to do that. And in order for us to be able to afford to do that, it would be necessary for us to charge a substantially higher rental rate for the hangars. And at this juncture, given the fact that we do have an 18-month wait list, which is nice to have, but we do really need to be cognizant that we don't overprice ourselves with our hangars.
Yes, sir, Mr. Brady.
And so I think the answer is the city is not looking to build out new
Right.
hangars, but certainly we encourage private sector
Right.
developers to possibly take on that enterprise
Right.
on their own.
And I know there have been some discussions, folks that are looking out there, looking at some sort of facilities, and so we're actually kind of excited about
Yeah.
the future.
Yes, yes.
Private sector.
Yeah.
Yep. It's picking up again.
Yes.
Now, serving our aviation customers is not the only thing we do at Falcon Field. We want our citizens of Mesa to be able to enjoy the airport and to look at it and get the feel of what it's like to be at an airport. So we have a number of special events that we are involved in every year. I think our premier one is our annual open house, at which on the average, we have about 15,000 people attend our annual open house, which is a great place and opportunity for people to see what's really going on at the airport. We also hold regular check-in meetings with our airport tenants as well as members of the community, just to provide them with updates on what is going on and to also solicit their input on their ideas, their suggestions, what can we do to improve the airport, because it's their airport. And I include members of the community who aren't necessarily tenants there. It's the community airport, and so it's important that we listen to their ideas. We are conducting a lot of airport tours these days. It's really caught on, and it ranges anywhere from preschoolers to senior citizens. And so it's a great opportunity to get people out there to really get up close and personal, sit in the cockpit of an airplane, touch it, feel it, take photographs. That's what starts the spark for people loving aviation. No pun intended, Councilmember Summers.
No sparking. You know, it's interesting. Councilmember Luna and I, the last couple of years, have had the opportunity to be out there for your open house event. It is a wow event. Thousands of people finding parking. It's just amazing what happens out there. And so unless you've experienced that, it's kind of hard to just describe in some numbers. But there's a love for that airport and the aviation and great time of year. And you just have to sit and go, man, this is amazing. People from all over the valley, different states, everywhere come in for that. It's an exciting event. But,
Yes, it is. Partnering with other community agencies is also really important to us as well. And we work regularly with other city departments on various things having to do with the airport. But we also partner with other agencies such as the Mesa Chamber of Commerce, the East Valley Partnership, the Visit Mesa folks, because we really feel that if we can all work together, it's going to benefit not only the airport but Mesa as a whole. You know, pilots and aviators are a very close-knit group, and they like to hang out, and they like to share all of their flying stories with each other. So one of the funnest things that we do is we provide a couple of venues for them to be able to do that by sponsoring some events every year. And those events include our tenant barbecue that we hold every fall. Our next one is coming up October 4th, and you are all invited to attend that. We also have a holiday open house in December, and when it gets really hot in the middle of July, we have an ice cream social. That's in addition to our regular tenant meetings. Again, we feel it's very important for us to be communicating with our tenants, not only, talking about airport matters, but just have an opportunity sometimes to just sit down and have a dish of ice cream with them. We also participate in the Falcon Warbirds pancake breakfasts that they hold from October to May, so keep that in mind. You're always welcome to attend those, and they make great pancakes.
Mr. Luna.
Corinne, and that's once a month, right? Don't they have
I'm sorry?
the pancake breakfast once a month on Saturdays?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I believe it's the third month, or the third Saturday of every month. And
So-
they'll start up again in October.
So I would encourage all community members to go and visit some great stories, some beautiful airplanes. It's just a magnificent place, as well as a historic hangar.
Right, yep. They hold the pancake breakfast. Everyone eats inside the old historic World War II hangars with all of their vintage warbirds there inside. So it's pretty cool. So as much as we all love flying, it's really important that we always remain cognizant of the fact that we need to respect the neighbors who have chosen to live near the airport. Our Fly Friendly program has been in place since the mid-2000s, and we've continued to expand it and improve upon it since that time, and we'll continue to do that. The voluntary fly-friendly strategies that were implemented in 2009 have done a lot, we believe, to keep the airport more compatible with the surrounding residential developments. And actually, since then, additional strategies have been put into place, and some of those strategies actually came as suggestions from the tenants themselves, some of the big tenants at the airport who are wanting to be a good neighbor.
Councilmember Luna.
Yes.
Corinne, can you speak to what kind of response have you had as a result of the check-in meetings, the fly-friendly meetings? Can you speak to that?
Actually, it's been really good, especially the last 2 or 3 meetings. It's been pretty much a civil interchange between folks. You obviously have some people that are very, very passionate about the airport. You have other people that are simply residents that live near the airport that want to be able to live, compatibly, and then you have people in between. But I thought one of the most interesting comments that was made at the meeting that was held on Tuesday evening, one of the individuals who for several years has been very concerned about the noise and the traffic at the airport, came up to me afterwards and said, I really think that we're going to be able to find a balance here. And to me, that was extremely encouraging to hear that individual say that.
It's a great indicator of your leadership there, all the staff, Councilmember Luna anxiously engaged in there.
Yes.
A lot of positive things are happening, and I appreciate that. Councilmember Summers.
Yeah, thank you for that update. That was one of the questions I was going to ask, is where we are in that process. Mm-hmm. And yesterday's newspaper, I think it was yesterday's newspaper, had a nice article about Chandler. Mm-hmm. Did you see it?
Yes.
It's actually pretty good, and it discussed how Chandler is really at a point now where they're starting to market and see commercial development and business development around their airport. Very small. 2 things I got out of that article. One, the reason it's growing is because they have freeway access, much like we now have the 202 that touches both Falcon Field and Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. Right. And we know that our growth is related to that as well. But the second thing is that they have started to really dig in and protect their airport from further residential encroachment. And Falcon Field is a great example of what happens when you're early on in planning and zoning, you do not take into account the fact that airports have noise around them. Economic activity, jobs, those things create noise. But they're important economic drivers for the community. We need to be extraordinarily careful in this council of not letting more residential encroach on either one of our airports, because one, that's just going to take away space that we can have for jobs, and two, it's going to make your job and Councilmember Luna's job that much more difficult out in the future as this airport grows. And this airport is going to grow and be an important economic piece to Mesa. So I think it behooves us to not only look at the fly friendly and encourage you to continue to do that, but make sure we do our job in protecting job growth and protecting this airport from further encroachment.
And in the coming weeks, we are going to hear a report of the Falcon Field Visioning Committee. We're really excited about that. Some very bright, intelligent individuals that are involved in all the industries and everything around there are going to be making a report to us here and help us to kind of put together all the pieces and how we should progress in the future. I've been really excited to see how that is coming forth, and some wonderful suggestions looking at everything from zoning to infrastructure and how do we grow our existing businesses. And when you have Boeing and MD Helicopter and all of those, remind me of how much of an impact in economic value to that entire area around Falcon Field. Tell me those numbers again.
Well, when you include Boeing, the annual economic impact is about $2.3 billion a year.
And how many jobs in the associated areas around the airport also?
Well, I know that, I think, is it like 10,000?
16,000 is the number I saw.
16,000.
When we take in that area that they're studying.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So $2.5 billion, 16,000 jobs, and the potential's there for some really exciting things. So I appreciate Councilmember Summers' review out east. Councilmember Luna's been wonderful and actively leading the efforts out there. So in the very near future, I think we're going to see some exciting information coming out of there.
I think this airport's going to take off.
I think so, too.
Good, good. All right.
So speaking of taking off, wow.
Yeah.
I'd just like to close. This slide looks kind of unusual in this presentation, but what it is, it's a very brief video of Falcon warbirds and a demonstration that they did up in Heber here recently. And I will just play that for you now, and I will let you know in advance that when they are flying at Falcon Field, they are always flying friendly.
Impressive, that is.
Thank you so much for letting us share what we have with you about Falcon Field. We really appreciate it, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions you would have.
Councilmember Luna.
I just want to acknowledge how grateful I am for all the hard work you and your staff do at Falcon Field. I really appreciate all the hard work and trying to balance the needs of the neighbors as well as the pilots as well as the tenants. You've done an amazing job, so thank you so much, and I just wanted to recognize you for that.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.